All right. And with that, I think we are good to get started. So, first off, I just wanted to let everyone know that this meeting is being recorded. So we'll be able to circulate the video at the conclusion of this call to everyone, just in case you missed something, want to hear something back, or if people were unable to attend. So firstly, I want to also thank everyone for taking the time. I know it's late on a Tuesday, end of the day. Some of you have classes. Um, but really exciting time of the year for us at the CSA with all students back on campuses now, which means the start of athletics. And with squash being a winter sport that starts in September, early October, everyone's just getting up and running right now. So I wanted to take this time to run through kind of what the CSA squash season looks like, some stuff that the CSA is working on, and provide really just as much guidance or assistance as possible, as we can to everyone on this call, as you undertake the planning phases for getting your seasons organized and your teams registered. Um, So with that, I just wanted to quickly orient on the team that we have here. So last year, this time, it was just me with the CSA, and proud to and excited to announce that and let everyone know and introduce you all to the full team we have. So I'm still with the CSA. I'm the commissioner. So kind of run everything from the day-to-day operations, league side, policy side, compliance side, eligibility side, kind of all things college squash do run through me. And then we've been incredibly lucky to be able to hire Lovey and Austin, starting back in May, I want to say. So Lovey is the director of expansion. She's tasked with trying to grow squash in the United States at the collegiate level. So getting squash on more campuses, at all levels. So ultimately, we do want to be converting more teams to varsity. But part of our initiative and our plan and our strategic plan for that is at the club level. So what that means is we're working to elevate the experience to get more club teams registered and operating in the States and playing on college campuses in any capacity from intramural, so just ladders, league play, anything on campus, to the club level where you're actually forming a team, having regular practices, and competing against other programs. So a lot of work there. And again, we're super excited to have Lovey. And then we have Austin as well. Um, who joined in May, and he's our comms expert. So everything from our social media to our website. If there's stories that you want the CSA to be amplifying, to sharing, to be telling about your team, he's the guy. Website design, he's working on building out different sections of the website that are really aimed at providing the resources that we think you all need, that you've all asked for, trying to better organize it and making sure that it's available for you. Okay. So then moving on, just wanted to orient that, we are the national governing body of intercollegiate squash in the United States. So, we're here for the competitions, the rankings, the policy, and really just organizing the league in full. And again, I just kind of mentioned this, but our general philosophy is more squash on more college campuses in whatever capacity that means. Um, our overall mission specifically classifies and categorizes our mission being geared towards varsity. But as I said, we view the club experience as one of the most important pieces. It really expands our reach. We have 65 varsity programs, between the men's and the women's across 37, 38 different institutions. At the club level, we're well over 75, really increasing our footprint and being able to provide and offer squash to a significantly larger percentage of the population. So again, we are aimed at the expansion piece. We want to support all of you in your efforts to organize a meaningful and worthwhile season. And ultimately, we're trying our best to be able to enhance the experience, to make it something that you all look back on and just have a positive relationship with the sport as the season progresses. So as of today, this is our current inventory of registered club men's and mixed teams. We're at 55 right now, which is an incredible start to the season. And there's a number of others that we are actively having conversations with to try to make sure that we can get them involved in the league this year. On the women's side, we're at 14. There's at least two more that I do know of. They just haven't formally filled out the paperwork or submitted the form online. But again, it's a great start to the season. Oh, sorry, I'm operating on multiple screens. Okay, so there's the women. Moving on to the membership benefits. So effectively, this is part of the why join the league. So it does come with a number of opportunities and benefits. So um, one of them being championships and rankings. So in order to participate in the club team championships, all teams need to be registered with the CSA. We provide some general infrastructure for the league. Again, the matches will begin. I think the first matches that I've heard of being scheduled at the club level are this last weekend of September, and they'll go all the way up to and through the club team championships, which is in mid-February. Throughout the season, we'll provide updates to the rankings to the extent that we're able to. A lot of that does depend on teams actually loading players onto their rosters, scheduling matches against other teams, playing those matches, recording the results so that we can have up-to-date rankings leading into the championships throughout the season. The CSA, we are a subsidiary of US Squash. So we have all of their resources available to our club teams through the CSA membership. So what that means is all players who are rostered will automatically receive an annual US Squash membership. In order to activate that membership, all that club teams need to do is add the players to their roster. There are no roster size caps, so the more the merrier. Through this partnership, we also, all teams have access to the Club Locker system. So for those of you who are not familiar with Club Locker, it is really the team management software and just competition management software in the United States. So it allows programs and teams to create anything from a ladder to a box league to facilitate some in-team play and competition. But then it also allows each individual team to have their listing to manage their teams as teams. So adding players to those rosters, scheduling matches against other teams, recording the results of those matches. And the beauty of this all is it's all wrapped up into the US Squash player profiles. So any match that you play and you record through your team listing will automatically be factored into each individual player's rating, which allows us to again work on the rankings, the seedings, and all this stuff, and really allows players to also establish a player history as they're navigating their squash careers. Part of the Club Locker piece is the live scores, so live scoring. So when you are playing matches, you can live score them through an iPod, just really any internet-enabled device. And we'll provide some information on that piece at the end. We also do have some match support through helping facilitate competition, connecting teams with each other. We have a centralized database of all the club team contacts, their supervisors, really, and it's just a database where if you are looking to schedule a match against another team, you can reference this document and you'll be able to easily fire off an email trying to connect to another team. We also do have a group me thread just for club team players. And it's been great, really, since we entered into September, seeing some of the club team captains sending off emails to the thread or messages to the thread saying, we're trying to host a match or a round robin on one day or another. And, there's a couple open spots, so let us know. But it's a really great way to schedule matches and get them played. So next up is how to become a CSA member program. And most of you who are on this call, if not all of you, have already completed step one. So that's filling out the initial registration form. That just basically says we're interested in joining the league this season and that added you to our database and got the wheels moving. Next up is the next three kind of steps can kind of happen in any order, but there's annual dues that need to be paid. There is the signed declaration of adherence, which basically sets the expectations for each team for operating within the league over the course of the season's minimum number of matches, expectation on conduct, mandatory eyewear requirements, and then also connects the CSA with an actual team supervisor who is affiliated with the school who's not an undergrad. So a little bit of a heightened level of authority at the school. And then setting up the club team listings. We do have, I believe, all of those set up for all teams that have submitted an initial registration, which is a good start. The next phase is actually making sure that the right people on each team have the right admin access to be able to manage their teams. So I've been doing my best to connect those dots and give the right people admin access, but we'll go through a little tutorial on the actual Club Locker pages at the end of the call, but just wanted to make note of that. But once all three of these pieces are taken care of, the teams are fully registered, and as of again, I believe the first matches are scheduled for the last weekend of September that I'm aware of. So the season is well underway. Um, a few key dates and deadlines that I wanted to make note of. Again, the annual membership dues, so $825 per team, which includes all the US Squash membership, access to online referee exam, the Club Locker software. The due date for that's November 15th. The actual invoices for those have not yet been sent out, but I expect to have all of those completed this week in the next, ideally by the end of day tomorrow, but I'll give myself until the end of day Friday, as there are a lot of teams and a lot of invoices to create. But the way those are sent out is we use Stripe as a third-party payment processing platform. So an automated invoice would be sent to the team captain via Stripe. So please be on the lookout for any invoices through Stripe over the next several days. The declaration of adherence has been sent to all teams that have registered. After registration, I send an initial email just laying out a couple of the next steps. An attachment to that email has the declaration of adherence. The document's also available on the CSA webpage in the Club Squash section. But that just needs to be completed by November 15th, and just you can print it, fill it out, sign it, and return it via email. You can also just digitally sign it. We just need it returned, making sure all of our programs have that signed. The club team championships do have a separate entry fee. The entry fee is $750, which is same as in prior years. In the past, we have been pretty delayed in sending out the invoices for that tournament specifically. I'm hoping to send out the entry fee via the Stripe invoice by the end of September. It does not need to be paid until February. But just making sure that for any team that's expressed an interest at this stage in the season of participating in that tournament, so that they have the invoice ready to be paid and can be submitted through their school's finance department, or it's just within their control to pay it whenever. And then obviously, depending on the team's final decision as to whether or not participation is going to happen, kind of deciding whether or not to pay it at that point. And then lastly, the national team championships is in February 13 to 15. So it's a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday of 2026. The tournament will be played in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania at the Arlen Specter Center, where it has been played for the past last year. 2 years ago, it was at University of Pennsylvania, just down the road. But fantastic facility here. We were able to host 48 teams in a single facility last year. In terms of some just a data point that tends to be helpful is for the past couple of years, we were able to start that tournament around noon on Friday. So depending on the overall number of teams that participate, will determine how early we need to start on that Friday. But we generally will play one match on Friday, one match on Saturday, one match on Sunday. We'll take all the teams that enter and we group them into, there's the mixed and co-ed divisions, and then there's the women's divisions. And we try to group them into groups of 8, which will be based on rankings leading into that tournament. A lot of those rankings will be based off of strength of roster, so the ratings of the players who are on the rosters alongside actual dual matches through the regular season. So the seeding process is difficult, but again, the draw structures are groupings of 8. So if 16 teams enter, we would break them into 2 groups of 8, so that it does allow each team gets 3 matches, 1 per a day. So some season expectations. This is just some general information, so I'm just gonna fly through it pretty quickly. But each team that's participating in the league, they can really choose how much or how little they want to play. The matches are self-scheduled, so each team is responsible for creating their own schedule by contacting and communicating with other programs. In order to qualify into the national team championships, there is a minimum number of matches, which I will go into in a couple of slides. But that's really the kind of one of the main questions that most programs will have, is that minimum number of matches. There are specific eligibility policies for individual players and teams, which again, we'll get into in a couple of slides. Scheduling, making sure that you're communicating early and often with the CSA, with the other programs, trying to get your schedule as firmed up as possible, as early as possible, so that your team, your players know what to expect, and that you know that the players who are actually on your team are available to play in those matches. It's unfortunately all too common to have teams that are, they'll schedule last minute, and then due to the last minute nature, players might have class, they might have other commitments and show up a little bit shorthanded. So from that standpoint, the scheduling piece is hugely important. Just trying to make sure that you are being respectful of your opponents. And part of that is that communication piece, is making sure that when you are playing someone, they know what to expect. Are you showing up with both a men's team and a women's team? Are you just a mixed team? Do you have an all men's team? Do you only have 7 players? What time are you expecting to get there? And then also, as the host facility, where should we be parking? What time would we have access to the courts? Like, just firming up all of these details is hugely important. Conduct, conduct is a huge piece. It's an important piece. We take fair play, sportsmanship very, very seriously, and we expect all of our players to as well. I'll say in my experience, especially at the club team championships, what I see is nearly unanimously positive. The excitement, the players, especially at the club level, they understand that squash is meant to be fun, and it's a competitive experience, and it's really nice seeing the lighthearted competition where you can really try hard, care a lot, but still be in the spirit of fair play and competition. So hoping to keep that trend as we move through this season. Obviously, any level of competition leads opportunity for less than optimal moments, but for the most part, we're here. We do have a formal conduct process, and we do expect club programs to adhere to our codes of conduct at the CSA, and any violations to that codes of conduct, we do expect teams to be submitting formal incident report forms so that we can follow up and try to nip any of that behavior in the bud. Okay. So adding on to that, eyewear. This, I would say, is a huge, huge safety issue. Although I did speak highly of the conduct and sportsmanship that I've seen at the club level, the use of eyewear feels a little bit more optional at the club level. And I just need to reiterate that it is a absolute requirement that all players in the CSA in an accredited match need to be wearing eyewear. It's a safety issue. I know everyone thinks it'll never happen to me, but it happens every year. Someone gets hit in the eye, a ball hits them, there's a follow through. You only have two eyes, and I've been in this around squash my entire life, and unfortunately, you see some pretty unfortunate events. So please wear the eyewear. I know that the jesters, which we'll touch on in a moment, they're super supportive of this as well. For any jesters sponsored round robins, they will be sending out eyewear ahead of time. But again, the eyewear piece is an absolute must. Um, Following through on commitments. All teams are trying to make sure that they meet the minimum match requirements in order to qualify into nationals. So it's important to stay communicative with your opponents. If for some reason, one reason or another, you need to drop a match or you can no longer make it, there could be weather related issues, maybe multiple players on your team get sick. Please proactively communicate that and try to find ways to reschedule if possible. I know that's not always possible, but again, most importantly, if you say you're going to be somewhere, your opponents are expecting you to be there. So it's important that you make all efforts to arrive and compete in that match because they're relying on you. Um, Creating a ladder, just a general policy. The way lineups work for matches is it's merit based. So the best player in that match needs to be in the number one position. The second best player needs to be in the number two position, and we work our way through to the bottom. We're not playing matchups against different people in the lineup. We can't just be moving players into random positions in the lineup. That is called ladder stacking. That is against the rules. That is not allowed. Most programs will have some means of a challenge system over the course of the season where, the number four will challenge the number three. If the four beats the number three, they move into that position. If the four loses to the three, the order is preserved in its original format. The expectation is that teams are conducting regular challenge matches, or there is some methodology to the ladders that are presented for matches. A good determination could be ratings, but I do also want to caution people who are too closely following the ratings. It's not an end all be all. Sometimes just, a hundredth of a point difference or a tenth of a point difference doesn't necessarily mean with absolute certainty that the player is better or worse. So we're trusting that the teams are operating these challenge matches and that their lineups that they're submitting for the match play is a reflection of those challenge matches. And then another important piece about this is during matches, you cannot be defaulting in the middle of your lineup. So what that means is if I have 9 players on my lineup in my roster for a specific match, my number 5 is injured, gets sick, can't make it to that match. That means the 6 bumps up, the 7 bumps up, everyone bumps up 1. You cannot default the number 5 position to preserve the placement of the 6, 7, 8, 9. It's an unfortunate situation, but we don't default matches in the middle of a lineup. I see these scorecards all the time, and I just need to be very clear that that is against the rules and is not permissible. Okay. Moving on to just some club team policy. So going off some of those match play standards and expectations, number of players per team, these are 9v9 matches. The absolute minimum for a match to actually count towards your nationals minimum match requirement is 7 players. If you play a match against another team that's under 5 players, that's totally fine. That just will not count towards your minimum match requirement count. So again, 7 minimum. We hope for 9 and expect 9. We understand things happen. 7 is that absolute minimum. For player eligibility, in order to be on a university or a college team, you need to be fully enrolled as an undergraduate student at that university. And all players only have 4 years of eligibility. Those are the 2 biggest pieces. And I guess to put a finer point on that first one is graduate students are unfortunately not eligible at the club level, only at the varsity level. So We understand that might cut some players out. They can still practice with your team, play with your team, but in official competition, graduate students are not eligible for club squash. And then the big question that most people ask is the minimum match requirement. So on the men's side, it's 8 matches minimum against 5 different opponents over the course of the season in order to qualify into the team championships. On the women's side, it's 6 matches against 4 different teams. There have been a number of questions, especially, or I guess from some of the women's programs about can they play against co-ed teams or men's teams to meet that minimum match requirement. Um, it's a bit of a tricky one. We have allowed a lot of flexibility in the past. Our overall preference is for women's teams to play against women's teams. With that said, we understand that there are currently 14 to 16 women's teams across the country that are pretty geographically separated from each other, and that it might be a little bit more difficult for them to be scheduling matches as opposed to the 55 men's and co-ed teams that exist. So we would like to see women's teams try to schedule against other women's programs, but in the event that they need to, just this is a communication thing. So please keep me in the loop at the CSA. And, ultimately, again, we allow flexibility. We're not trying to be overly difficult on this. We ultimately just want more matches, more competition for everyone. So we just want to make sure that we're going through the right processes here. Okay, so I wanted to move on to some general best practices that we've kind of been collating over the past several seasons, and something that we found is hugely important. This is more from like kind of a long-term planning process, and then also within the current season, but a leadership structure within the team. So there could be a captain, there could be a person who's responsible for actually scheduling the matches. There could be a treasurer who's responsible for the finances. There's a lot of different roles. It's a lot for a single person. If all this were to fall to a captain, it's a lot. So trying to divvy up the responsibilities and having some level of governance structure on each individual team is great, and something that we strongly recommend and is hugely important from a longevity standpoint. So succession planning, if all of this falls to a single person, that person graduates, then who is responsible for this moving forward? Does anyone have any level of experience with this? How was it done in the past? So making sure that there's some level of coordination on the team to make sure that it's not just sustainable and a successful program this season, but that it can move into the future. Planning ahead again. So I know a lot of the teams have facility or courts on their campus that they have access to. Some teams do not, and they need to be renting courts at a nearby facility. Where are matches going to be played when you're competing against different teams? These are all the types of pieces that should be worked out as soon as possible, including whether or not the team is hoping to and planning to play in the team championships in February. How are you planning to travel to that event? Who is planning to travel to that event? Where are you staying? These are all types of questions that are important to get ahead of. Recruiting players. One of the beauties of club squash is you can really recruit anyone from campus. It can be as casual or as serious as your program wants. So again, I keep harping on this. The CSA's philosophy is more players, the better. So I know that some of your program's based on court size, court access, all that stuff. You might have hard caps on the number of players you can bring in to your team and actually have on the program. But doing open houses, trying to expose more people on campus to this sport of squash and getting them involved, recruiting players, making sure that, it's not just this year, but that there's a pipeline for future seasons of players who are going to take the reins of the program and make sure that it continues onward. Managing finances. So there's a lot of expenses associated with this. There's the dues to the CSA, there's the entry fee to the nationals, there's travel, there's hotels, there's equipment, there's uniforms, just keeping track of everything. It can feel overwhelming sometimes, but it's important to kind of keep track of this, especially if we're talking about fundraising opportunities and reaching out to your alumni base, parents, the school itself. Sometimes the schools want pretty specific descriptions and understanding of where money is being spent. And, the more organized you are as a program, the more likely schools themselves, the rec departments can be to actually provide additional funding. If you say, look, we need to go to the team championships, or we've qualified for the team championships, and in order to get there, our team needs to buy train tickets or a flight, and the hotels in the area, we've priced out a couple different options. And the more organized you are as a program, the better it looks at the school level, and the more likely they would be, or for a donor or anyone to be willing to provide some funding. And then again, communication, communication, communication with the teams you're playing against, with the CSA, amongst your team itself, setting expectations for when practice schedules are. Setting the culture of the team is, if you're on the team, you're committing to participate in these matches. By the way, here's our schedule. We are trying to get to the championships. This is the date. So I understand there could be academic conflicts that come up, but by being on the team, there is some level of commitment to the program. And then going down the funding pathway. Again, we strongly recommend that teams explore all funding opportunities. So some of you do have access to funds directly from the school, either through the student government or through the rec department or through the athletic department in some cases, which is fantastic. Some of you do not. Some of you need to be fundraising a vast portion of your operating budget for the season to get you from today through the championships. So what that looks like is, you're tapping into your alumni. So those who had been on the team in the past, any parents, doing any type of fundraising type of events on campus to try to raise some funds. The CSA does offer some level of support, but that's more by ways of waiving membership dues and an entry fee into the championships. Those are, again, fairly limited. There's an application for that online. I'll make sure to circulate that to the full group of registered teams. It's a formal application that needs to be submitted to us for our team to review. And it tends to be allocated to the teams that are more up and coming, that are less well established, that are, we're waiving the $825 entry fee or membership dues, or the $750 entry fee really is kind of a make or break for whether or not the team can operate this season. And then another important and huge support that we've had, the CSA and club teams in general have had over the past several years, is support from the Jesters organization. You've all received a couple emails from me on this. They are huge supporters of club squash. They want it to be an enjoyable experience. They want to elevate the experience. They want the players, the student athletes, to have as great of an opportunity and experience as possible. And they very generously provide two types of funding. One is through Jesters sponsored round robins. So they help to facilitate 5 to 7, I believe, round robins around the country. For those round robins, they provide direct funding to the organizing team to help offset the expenses associated with hosting that event, to try to elevate it, either be through I think they provide squash balls. As I said at the beginning, they do provide, they will be providing eyewear for all participating players. And really, they want it to go towards providing a meal, some level of something that makes it feel like more of an event, rather than just a single match. And then they also do provide coaching grants. So $1,000 coaching grants. I believe they have an $11,000 budget this season. So that's 11 different coaching grants. Both the application deadline is October 1st. I've sent this email. I will resend the email to all registered teams about how and where to submit an application for either hosting a round robin or applying for a coaching grant. They are reviewed and approved on a rolling basis. But again, the Jesters support has been fantastic for club squash in college. And I know that Chris Brownell was
Hi, Harry.
hoping to
It's
join.
yeah, it's Lovey.
Hey,
Uh,
Lovey.
so Chris is on the way. Hopefully
Mm,
she'll be here soon. Boston traffic.
Yep. Okay. Well, if Chris is able to, if she gets in before the call's over, we will give her a few
Yeah.
moments, let her introduce herself, the gestures, what they stand for. But again, the level of support that they've provided to the to club teams has been incredible. So I strongly recommend all teams kind of take advantage of it, and to the extent that they can. Okay. And then wanted to get into club locker management. So I'm in a moment I'm gonna end the PowerPoint and go into a club locker profile just to kind of play with it and show all of you around a little bit and how to use the software. We do have instructional videos that we've sent around and we'll add to the website as well. Um, but the main piece right now, or for the next, basically the next immediate need, is making sure that each team has the correct administrator. And in order to determine whether or not it's the correct administrator, is you go into the team listing and it says at the top coach, and it should be a person who should have access to be able to edit the team. And then there's an option for an assistant coach. Those tend to either be for programs that do have paid coaches, it should be that person. For teams where it's just captain run, student run, it should be the captain or a scheduler or someone who's in a leadership position on the team. um, that person, those people, whoever's responsible for this, they need to be adding players to their rosters. They need to be scheduling matches against other programs, and they need to be recording the results of those matches within 48 hours of the match date. Um, so I'm gonna end the screen share quickly, and that's not how I do it. And I'm going to go into a Club Locker page in a moment. Okay. Can we see the Club Locker page now? Okay. So this is just the landing page for the league. It's got both the varsity and the club in here. So I'm just gonna quickly, oh, you know what? I'm gonna go to last year's because that'll have some results in there. So, I'll do both. Okay, so we go into the club league itself, division standings. These are all the teams that have registered this season. Um, just picking one at random. So in terms of admin access, this is what I'm talking to. Up at the top, coach, assistant coach. These should be someone with a leadership position on the team. If it does not list the correct names, please send an email to us and we are more than happy to update that. Another thing worth noting is it might say your name, but you could have two or three or four or five different accounts that have been created for you over the course of your squash career. So making sure that we have the right account, or, like my name's Harry Smith, there could be 15 Harry Smiths in the Club Locker system, all different. So making sure we have the right name account. You're going to want to make sure that you are logged into your account, which you can tell by seeing your name in the upper right corner of the screen. So once all that's squared away, the next piece is making or starting to add players to your roster. So you would come over to the roster section, manage roster. And by the way, if you do not have admin access and you are logged in, these buttons will not be available to you. You won't be able to get to the screen. So there's a couple checks along the way. But so it's as simple as you come into the roster management, add a player, search for whoever you're trying to search for, Harry Smith. This first one here is me. This piece right here where it says sub or regular, ignore it. It's not relevant. You can choose it, but it has no bearing on anything. So then you click add, then there I am. I've been added to this to the roster. Similarly, if you get the wrong person or you need to remove someone, manage player, delete. Uh-oh. Let's see if that did it. Deleted. Okay. Needed to refresh the page. So adding players to the roster, super simple, fairly intuitive. Next up is scheduling matches. So you would just go to upcoming matches section, create a match. Match number is irrelevant. You do not need to put that in. The most important pieces on this page are the date. So if I'm going to play it today, the time, round you can leave as local. That's irrelevant. But let's see. So I'm logged in as Chicago. This is an important piece when you're scheduling matches. So notice I just typed in Chicago. We have Chicago, Chicago. You're going to want to make sure you're selecting the correct team. So this first Chicago is under the header of the mixed club teams. The second one is under the women's club teams. So for the programs that do have both a men's and a women's programs, you're going to want to make sure that you're careful and you're seeing which one you're actually selecting. So in this case, we're in the men's league or the mixed league. We'll select Chicago. Who do we want them to play against? I'm going to say Bucknell. I don't know why they're top of mind right now, but they are. So again, mixed Bucknell. If you want to add a location for where the match will be played, it's the venue down here, Bucknell. And apply. Match has been scheduled. Easy as that. Next piece, and we're not going to be able to actually get into this piece because there's no one on the roster right now, but we would be before each individual match. The captains, the administrators, the Mark or Winston of each team would need to submit their lineup. So we would go to manage lineup. Home team would be Chicago. You use these drop downs for each position. You click save lineup. I'll send more specific information. Again, I'm limited in the ability to demo too much of this without players on the rosters. But again, the main piece are make sure the admins are the correct people who need admin access. Teams should start adding players to their rosters. Once that's done, teams should begin actually listing scheduled matches on their profiles to the matches that have been confirmed. Sorry, I'm going to delete this so that it doesn't mess things up. And then from there, we do need the match results that are actually entered within 48 hours of the match date. And I do want to, I'm going to go to last year's league just very quickly, just to show a few things to be cautious of. So division standings. Let's see. So, and then one thing I would just ask is that whoever is responsible for each team, that you please do your best to keep your team page, your scheduled matches as clean as possible. So let's see. Like this match, it looks like they entered the rosters, but there was no actual matches played. So the preference in this situation would be to have deleted that match if it wasn't played. Some of these matches I was looking earlier, bad example, I guess. Basically, you can't record results sometimes if you don't actually enter your lineup ahead of time. Where so it'll say not on roster, not on roster, or something to that effect, and just something to be aware of. But I think that's good for a Club Locker demo for now. Again, the most important piece is make sure that your team has the correct administrators listed. If it's not correctly listed, please email me directly, harry.smith@csasquash.com. I am going to stop the screen share. I did see some questions coming through the chat, so I'm gonna start to work through those. And then I will open it up to any additional questions that people might have. So someone asked why grad students are not eligible. This has to do with the complexity of compliance and eligibility. And club programs, for the most part, do not have access to the same compliance officers that varsity programs have access to. And for that reason, it's just too difficult. It's not as simple as saying you've only played 4 years. There's rules on stuff like delayed enrollment, right? So what does that mean? Technically, at the NCAA level, you have 5 years to complete 4 years of eligibility. So if you begin using your eligibility when you are 22 years old, how much eligibility do you have left? Right. So there's very nuanced questions. There's academic. So some students are academically ineligible. There's just there's a lot of nuance to the question of eligibility. So grad students are kind of in a more complicated realm there. So at the club level, it's just not something that is currently allowable. Next question. If you were competing in a round robin with 2 other teams, does that count as 2 matches played? I'm not sure I understand the question. So if you're in a round robin and there's 2 other teams, so there's 3 teams and all of them play each other, that is 2 matches. That is correct. There are, again, on the men's side or the mixed division, you need to play a minimum of 8 matches against 6 different teams. On the women's side, it's 6 matches against 4 different opponents. So you can play the same team twice, a couple of times for both the men and the women. Is the minimum match requirement only for competing in the championships? That is correct. Lovey was correct.
Thank you, Harry. By the way, Chris is here if you want to pause on Q&A and then.
Yeah, definitely. So by way of introduction, everyone, this is Chris Brownell, our main contact with the Jesters organization. Chris, we did talk through the level of support through the round robins, the coaching grants, and the October 1 deadline. So
Great.
hugely appreciate the Jesters and all they do for club squash. So want to hand it off to you.
Sure. Yeah, so Chris Brownell, nice to see you all on this call. A few points I just want to make. We have 3 more coaching grants left, and I'm looking to do maybe 1 more round robin. I know the deadline is October 1st, but it's sort of a rolling admissions, and the team that sort of presents a West Coast option is what we're looking for. If you still were planning on doing a round robin and you want to submit something, you can go on the wait list. We've always admitted wait list people, so or round robin. So we're happy to support. Just get on the wait list if you were planning on doing a round robin. I think the big thing to realize is that the funds are not for travel. The funds are to try to, run a productive round robin to allow teams to get to nationals. And in that vein, we also want to make sure that you're all enjoying yourselves and having, a meal together and that kind of thing to make it memorable. We ask all the captains or people that are organizers to write something up about the weekend, take some pictures, and also communicate to any local jesters who might want to come and support. So if you're looking to get into one of the round robins, the different venues are Charlotte, North Carolina, Boston, Cincinnati, Ohio, Princeton, New Jersey, and Georgetown right now. So if one of those places is a place you'd like to go to with your team, you can contact the organizer. You can also always send me something. I think my information's in the letter if you have any questions. I'm not sure if we want to open up to any questions right now, Harry, or move on.
Yeah, I think and then just for those dates that and locations that Chris just mentioned, we will add those to the website. We'll circulate those via email. We'll provide the actual whoever the lead contact is for each of those events, along with contact information. So you don't need to watch us back or write that down right now. That information will certainly be sent around to all club teams afterwards. But yeah, Chris, I had there's one more question that was submitted through the chat, which was do matches against varsity teams count towards the minimum match requirement? The answer to that is yes. But with that, it looks like all questions that came through the chat feature have been answered. So, that was for the most part the full run of show that we had planned for this evening. We've about 8-10 minutes left in the call. So I'm happy to open it up to any questions if people want to either take themselves off mute or continue adding questions into the chat. Happy for anything. Either just club squash, league related, Jesters specific, anything.
I think I would add a couple things which I didn't mention earlier, which is for anyone who's doing the round robin, you're getting funding, but you're also getting eye guards and some balls, and we won't double dip on the eye guards. So, if let's say Dartmouth participated in a round robin, then if they were at another round robin, we wouldn't send extra eye guards for the Dartmouth squash players if they've already received some. The other is that for the coaching stipends, it would be great to provide the coaches information that we would be sending the coaching fee to. It can be a little confusing for us when we're writing checks. This year, we're going to try to do that in January. Some of the teams didn't get payment for like deep into the spring, and we'll do that earlier this year. We're going to try to do it in January. So if you can make sure that you submit a coach's name and their information where we can send money, that would be helpful.
Thanks, Chris. And as you were speaking, a question did come through. It said one of our alums was wondering about the Jesters coaching stipend. What is the process for applying for that?
Yeah, so it's actually really simple, and we tend not to say no. You just need to pop on to the link that Harry sent off to you all. And there's, I think it'll be titled Gesture Support. I can't remember what the email was titled. And right there, you'll just need, the name of the coach, the program. The idea is that it wouldn't be somebody that's already on a coaching staff and being paid. It's additional coaching for a program. And a lot of times we're looking to try to help get a little bit more coaching, because we've seen, at events where, teams are only coaching themselves, and I know it would be helpful to get either a coach present at a match or get a little bit more sort of coaching advice during the season to play even better. So it's a simple process. We already have 8, those 8 who have applied. They haven't heard back from Coach Maranta, Guillermo Maranta, sort of in charge of the coaching stipends, but he and I work together, and I think that all the 8 will get support from us. So again, we have 3 more spots. So tuck your team in there, but it doesn't go to a slush fund. It really should go to a coach. Maybe it's even just getting a coach to nationals. You might not be enough money to, come to practices, but it might be something to be able to take a coach to either a round robin or nationals. Be pretty cool to do.
And then, so again, just layering on what Chris was saying there, I'm going to share my screen again quickly. Again, I have sent out that email. I will recirculate the email about Jester support, but this is also possible. So this is squash.com, the homepage of our website. Resources, Club Squash. club support and funding opportunities, Jester's club support, and then we have the round robins application form, coaching grants application form. So you can click your way through to it on our website. And again, I've sent that email, and I'll send those links as well. Another couple of questions. Where can we find info about the round robins that have already been scheduled? We will be circulating those at the conclusion of this call, probably tomorrow. But it sounds like, Chris, did you say 6 different locations?
Six are confirmed,
Mhm.
and we have space for a 7th.
Okay, and then next question, it says, is it possible to submit an application even if we do not have a coach? We're in the process of hiring one.
An application for a round robin?
I
Absolutely.
know, I think this is a coaching grant.
Oh,
So they're looking for a coach. They do not have a coach currently. Can they still submit it on the
yes,
aspirational hope that
yes,
they get one?
yes, absolutely. And we're not planning on sending those checks until January for that specific part of our funding. So hopefully you'll have a coach in mind or in place by that point that we can actually write a check to them. But what we don't really want to do is send a check to a team and then the team decides what they want to do with that money. It's really, we want to make sure that the coaching is happening. And it's just, I'm sure some of you are going to pay a lot more money for coaching than $1,000. But if you don't have any coaching or you have little and you want to do more, here's an opportunity to expand that.
Amazing. Thanks, Chris. And with that, I think that's all the questions that we've received so far.
I did have one, if you don't mind. Ms. Brownell, we don't need any financing, but we were wondering if we're still able to help out besides just hosting matches.
So how would you like to help out?
We don't know. That's what we're curious because we have 6 courts on our campus. We're also next to Georgetown.
Oh.
So if
Well,
there's any need
yes.
for helping,
I mean, Georgetown has submitted an application. Maybe they can do their round robin. You guys are listed as one of the teams, so maybe you guys could play there and it'll cost you a lot less money than using Squash on Fire.
yeah, that I'd be interested. I was in contact and we can see about that.
Okay, that's Dietrich Jacobs. I don't know if he's on
Yeah,
the call,
I don't know.
but if you
Thank
can
you.
touch base with him. And
Cool.
that's great to know too, that there's a venue for other teams that might want to do something.
Yeah, we also was maybe the women's club. We don't mind hosting some of those round robins if they need a better location. We know that
Excellent.
Georgetown Women's was looking into that.
Excellent. I will keep that under my lid. So when people ask me, I will
Cool.
pass that along.
Thank you.
All right, one more question. Is there a document or a way we can see the schedule of matches so we know when other teams are free? So that can all be done through Club Locker. In the league itself, as teams start to get their matches that they've confirmed scheduled in Club Locker, if you on the actual league page, rather than clicking into a specific team, there's an upcoming matches section. So you can either click into a specific team and see the matches that they have scheduled, or you can look at the full league of all the teams in the division and the matches that they have scheduled. So this is largely why it's very important that teams get their match schedule confirmed in the near term, and then get that schedule imported into Club Locker, because this is this important process where the teams, all of you teams, are trying to figure out who to play, who's available on what weekends. Do I need to reach out to this person if they've already are committed somewhere else? So the more accurate the information is on Club Locker, the easier everyone's job is in terms of trying to piece together the schedule. I also heard about the group me and was wondering if anyone has information on that. We will make sure to send out a link to join the group me. It's just a thread that all club teams have access to and a way to more quickly communicate with one another. With that, I guess one last plug is for all who are not aware, this is Women's Squash Week, started I believe yesterday or the 15th, and is moving through to this week. So for any women's programs out there, women's players out there, please get on court, do a post, send anything to the CSA. We're happy to amplify it about any women's squash week related activities that you have going on campus and amongst your team. So with
And
that,
that's
yeah.
actually where Chris and I are going right now, downstairs to play.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks, Harry.
Yeah, thanks, Lovey. And with that, I think we are all good for today. But again, thanks everyone for taking the time to join. Super excited that we're finally here. The season's about to start, and I think most importantly, just please know that the line of communication is always open. Feel free to reach out. We'll do our best to answer your questions quickly. Provide the information that you need, and we'll be circulating this video or this recording likely tomorrow to all club teams. I'll make sure to send information on the jesters, information on the group me, and again, harry.smith@csasquash.com, admin@csasquash.com. Feel free to reach out at any time, call, email,